Hey guys, welcome back to my kitchen. So in today's video, we're going to be making sourdough pizza. Sourdough pizza is one of my all-time favorite pizzas. You can put anything on it and it tastes absolutely delicious. You've got that nice sourdough flavor, the light, airy, crispy texture of the crust is just so delicious. So if you are not familiar with having anything to do with sourdough, you can check out my blog post on my website. You can click the link in the description box below, as well as also pinned in the comment section, so you can just click that link. It'll take you right to my website, and then you can just search up my sourdough starter, and there you will find a good majority of information on how to make your sourdough, maintain your sourdough, and some frequently asked questions that I get on sourdough. So, as with any sourdough, you're going to want your sourdough to ferment at least 12 to 24, all the way up to 48 hours in advance if you prefer. I typically go about 24 hours because I find that gives it the best flavor. So, when I make things like breads, cinnamon rolls, sub rolls, anything like that, especially sourdough pizza, I usually let it ferment for about 24 hours. It's just the best length of time for me. So I'm going to take you back 24 hours ago, and we're going to go over how I make my sourdough pizza crust. Let's go. Okay guys, for my sourdough pizza crust, this is everything you're going to need. I have a huge, gigantic tub of flour here, but that's okay. I do a lot of baking and cooking, so I have tons of different flours. I've got some olive oil, salt, sugar, some measuring spoons in a cup, and I've got some warm water here. It's just a little bit above room temperature, but that's fine. And I've got my sourdough starter here, which I fed before I put it in the refrigerator, and it's still doing fantastic. It is good to go, nice and bubbly. She's pretty. So if you are not familiar with sourdough, I have a entire post on my blog about sourdough starter. Explains a little bit there. But if you want me to do a video on sourdough starter, let me know in the comments below, and I will get that video up for you guys. It's very easy to create, very easy to maintain, and you can do so much with it. Now with our pizza crust, we're going to do the pizza crust in the mixer. You can do it by hand if you prefer. I'm just going to go ahead and do it in the mixer today, just to make it easier on myself, and it's going to be fabulous tomorrow. Now when it comes to making sourdough breads and crusts or anything like that, you have to prepare in advance, at least a day to 2 days in advance, just so your bread can have enough time to rise and do its second rise, and it will be absolutely delicious. So let's go ahead and get this started, and we will have some delicious pizza tomorrow. Okay guys, hopefully you can see everything well. I've just got my mixer here. She's ready to go. I'm going to start by combining my water and my sourdough starter, just to get that sourdough starter a little broke up and combined in the water, so it's easier to combine with the flour. So I've got my water in here. I'm going to go ahead and add about 3/4 of a cup of my delicious sourdough starter right into my bowl here, and this smells absolutely delicious. I love the smell of sourdough starter. It smells so good. It's got kind of a fermented smell to it, but not a bad smell. It's kind of yeasty, but a slight tinge of sour. It's absolutely delicious. Now that I have successfully dropped sourdough starter all over my counter. We're going to pop the lid back on that. We'll set that aside. We can just go ahead and pop that back in the fridge. I don't have to feed it because it's already fed, and we can use that for maybe some sourdough pancakes in the morning. So we're going to set that there. We're going to go ahead and pop this down, and we're going to turn this on low until it's combined and mixed pretty well. Okay, that took all of 30 seconds to mix that together. So now we're going to go ahead and add in the remaining ingredients. We're going to go ahead and add in we're going to start with about 3 cups of flour. You can always add more later. This is a 1/2 cup measure. So 2 of these are going to be a cup. So we're going to add just a few of these. That's 1 cup. Two. And 3. We will start there, and if we need to add more flour, we can. And we're going to add in a couple tablespoons of olive oil. I'm using extra virgin. You can use whatever you have on hand. Okay. I'm going to do 2 of these. And this is going to give it such a wonderful color and flavor, and help keep that pizza crust nice and moist. Now we're going to go in and add in about a tablespoon of sugar. This is going to give it just a slight sweetness, and it's going to help that bread to have something to munch on while it's rising. And then we're going to add in a teaspoon and a quarter of salt. Now for this, I'm using kosher salt. If you're doing a finer grain of salt, I would cut that at least to about 3/4 of a teaspoon to a 1/2 teaspoon, because you don't want to make it too salty. Kosher salt is such a fine, coarse ground salt, and it has a wonderful flavor. So I've got that in there, and all I'm going to do now is plop this down, and we're going to start mixing this up, and we will test it again in just a second to see if we need any more flour. Okay, we're going to give this a little check. Now, as you can see, it's still quite liquidy, so I'm going to add in about 1/4 cup, and I'm going to do this until it starts to pull away from the sides of the pan, kind of like a regular yeasted dough. So I'm just going to add 1/4 cup of flour in there, and then, like I said, I'm going to continue to do this until it starts to pull away from the sides of the bowl. Okay guys, this has been going for about 5 minutes, and as you can see, it's still quite sticky. It's not really sticking to my hands, but it's still quite pliable, and it has started to come away from the sides of the bowl here in my pan, or my bowl. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to lightly flour my hands and get all of this dough off my hook and get that into the bowl. And what we're going to do now is we are going to let this dough rest. We're going to let this dough rest for about an hour. And every 20 minutes we're going to come in and we're going to do a stretch and fold. And all that is you take one side of the dough, pull it up, fold it over, and kind of lay it back down until you've done all 4 sides. I will show you how to do that when we come to that point. So I'm going to cover this with a tea towel, and I'll meet you back here in about, well, it's going to be a few seconds for you 20 minutes for me. So I'll see you back in just a second. Okay, so it's been about 20 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and do the first stretch and folds. Now, I've got a little bit of water here. This is just to keep the dough from sticking to your hands. And you just want to wet your hands a little bit. Grab the dough by one side. You're going to pull it up and stretch it over. That's going to be quite sticky until you develop that gluten. Now just keep doing this until you get all the way around the bowl here. Hopefully you can see that very well. It's kind of difficult when you've got a boo-boo on your hand. So you're just going to stretch it over, fold it over, kind of tuck it in on the sides there, and then all you're going to do is cover this back up, set your timer for another 20 minutes, then you're going to come back and do it all over again. You're going to do this 3 more times. Okay guys, so I've got some plastic wrap here and we're going to perform the last stretch and fold on this bread. So just as before, you're just going to pull it up as far as it can go and then just kind of stretch it over. And I transferred this to a glass bowl because we're going to let this sit for 24 hours and I don't want it to stay 24 hours in my metal bowl. Okay, get this side and then we will cover it in some plastic. That is good. Now we're just going to cover this up and let it sit in a warm place for about 24 hours and then I'll meet you back here tomorrow when we make some pizza. Okay guys, now that we've got our dough through its first rise, we can start working with the dough. We're ready to go now. So I've got my oven preheated to 450 degrees. It should be ready to go in just a minute or two. I've got 2 cast iron pans in the oven and they're getting nice and hot. I love cooking pizza on cast iron. It just makes for the best crust. But if you don't have cast iron, you can do this in a sheet tray. You're good to go. So those are going in the oven. I've got my toppings back here. Now when it comes to pizza toppings, the world is your oyster and you can put whatever it is that you like on your pizza and you're good to go. Today I'm just going to use what I have on hand. I thought I had pepperoni, but I guess I forgot to pick some up at the grocery store, but that's fine. I'm just going to do bacon instead. So what I did to the bacon was just lightly cooked it to where it was like lightly golden, and then I just took it out, put it on some paper, you know, like a plate with some paper towel on it so it can drain and cool. I've got some onions, bell peppers that are thinly sliced. I've got cheese, garlic, Parmesan cheese. I've also got some cherry tomatoes that I just cut in half. All the bigger ones I cut in quarters. And my pizza sauce, olive oil, and some salt and pepper. If you like pepper on your pizza, you can use pepper, it's fine. Or you can do red pepper flakes. So, I've got my dough here, and she is beautiful. This is going to make, depending on how many pizzas you want, really, you can do 2 pizzas like I'm going to do. You can do 4 pizzas, 4 individual pizzas if that's what you would like to do. That's fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lightly flour my board and kind of work the dough a little bit and cut it in half. That's all I'm going to do, and then we will walk through the process of rolling it out and all of that, getting it into the pan, and we will do that one at a time because I want to keep one pan hot while I work on the other. So let me get this dough going, floured out, ready to go, and then I'll meet you right back here. Okay guys, so I've got my dough right here, and I've got it separated into 2 pieces, and I've just got it sitting on some flour, because when you're working with sourdough, you want to limit your amount of flour because you want those nice sourdough bubbles in your dough. So I've just got this lightly floured. This is just going to keep it from sticking to my counter, because these counters, they're not really good for rolling things out. So I've got my rolling pin here. I've got a little placemat here for my cast iron to sit on when I get it out of the oven. So what I want to do first is go ahead and roll out my dough for my first pizza. So that way when I get my pan out of the oven, I can have it ready to go. So you're just going to lightly flour the top, lightly flour your kitchen and your rolling pin, and then just roll this out to whatever size pizza crust you want. Now, I don't know if you can see those beautiful bubbles in that pizza crust. Now, if you don't want to go through the trouble of making a pizza crust, you can just put straight sourdough starter into your pizza crust, bake it for a few minutes. You're pretty much good to go. It's actually pretty delicious, and I do that from time to time. But today we want some sourdough crust. So I've got this done. I want to get out my first pan, so I'm going to do that right now. And this baby is nice and hot. So I just want to take my sourdough, put it right into my pan. Let's see. Let me slide you guys over a bit. There you go. So I've got that in there. And it's going to start automatically cooking this pizza crust. So what I want to do now is I want to add a little bit of olive oil to my crust here, and this is just going to give it tons of flavor. And open my jar of sauce. Now you can put as little or as much as you want on your pizza. It's really up to you. And then just kind of spread that around a bit. Now I want to leave some crust at the end. Now if my husband was here, he doesn't like crust, so I would do the entire pizza with sauce, but that's fine. Like I said, you can add as much sauce as you like. I'm going to do a little bit of cracked Himalayan salt, a little bit of pepper, just for color. Now when it comes to spices, you can do whatever it is that you like. And I think I've lost my red pepper flakes. Oh no, here they are. So I've got some red pepper flakes. And this is just going to add a kick of heat. Certainly optional. If you don't like heat, you can leave it off. Now we're going to do our toppings. So I've got some onion here. You can add as much or as little as you want. And then just put all of that on there. Now I'm going to do one cheese pizza and one vegetable pizza with bacon. Because we like variety. You can decorate this however you like. Okay. Now I'm going to go in with my bacon. Now if you got Canadian bacon on hand, that would be delicious. You can do pepperoni, salami, sausage. It's really up to you. But sometimes you just got to work with what you got on hand. Okay. Now I'm going to go in with a little bit of garlic. Let me find my spoon here. I just find that garlic gives pizza. Such a nice flavor, but you certainly don't have to add it. You can do garlic powder if you would like. Give my hands a little rinse here. And we're going to set that aside. And we're going to top it with some shaved Parmesan cheese, because I like that salty bite that the Parmesan cheese gives. Not too much, because we are going to be adding some mozzarella cheese. Okay. Now we are going to add in our mozzarella cheese. We just break this up a bit. And then you can add as much as little bit as you want. This has not even started cooking yet, and that dough smells so good. I love working with sourdough. It just has the best flavor. Now I'm just going to top it with my tomatoes. I like to put these on top so they get nice and roasty and sort of caramelized on top. Absolutely delicious. And those yellow tomatoes are just so pretty. Now I don't want to add too many because I don't want my pizza to get soggy. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put this beautiful pizza in the oven. And while this one is cooking, I'm going to work on the cheese pizza. I'm going to do the exact same thing. Sauce, olive oil, salt and pepper, a little bit of garlic, and some cheese. Pop that in the oven, and I'll meet you right back here, and I will show you what these look like when they're done. Okay guys, my pizzas have just come out of the oven, and I cut them into semi-small slices. I'm going to cut them a little bit smaller before I serve them, but I just wanted to show you guys these pizzas. They smell absolutely delicious. I cannot wait to dig in, and I want to show you the inside of these pizzas. Does that not look absolutely delicious? I cannot wait to dig in. So I'm going to get some plates out. We're going to dig in. Alright guys, I'm going to wrap the video up here. We're going to go enjoy some delicious sourdough pizza. Let me know what your favorite toppings are for your pizza in the comments. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe before you leave. And as usual, if you want the recipe for my sourdough pizza crust, you can check the link in the description box or in the comment section for my blog. It will take you right there, and you can just search up sourdough pizza crust. It'll take you right to it. So yeah, you guys, we're gonna go enjoy some dinner, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye guys.